Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando. We're gonna continue with the auction season. There is there are the auctions, of course, for the winter season coming up in New York City, Phillips, Christie's, and Sotheby's, which includes some pieces from Tom Brady's collection as well. Not really my favorite, but that's an option. But I wanted to take a look at the Christie's online auction that's based out of Dubai. Um, of course, this is just a sign of the times, as always. The esteemed auction houses not only have established like permanent shops, sometimes with even physical locations where they sell watches year round. They also have these sorts of online auctions for pieces that they couldn't quite fit in with their specific curations, even if those curations are a lot of times not really thematic. I still want to leave you an option. So I dropped a few links, or a couple of links rather, in the chat, including the Christie's Dubai, Phillips New York, and I can most certainly drop the links for Sotheby's as well. But I opened a poll, so feel free to give your vote, decide on the direction of this program, and in fact, hit the like while you're at it. I'm sure it will be worth your while in either case. I think I'm gonna just start with looking at what they call the Dubai edits, the online auction for which I've already posted the link. A lot of usual suspects, but some very interesting and rare pieces as well. A lot of interesting stuff by Alain Gonzone, some limited editions by Cartier, and most certainly some fascinating stuff by Vacheron Constantin and Patek, and even Rebel Forcé. So let's start in no particular order with lot 47. This is a watch that runs on a version of the movement that Zenith just brought back. It is a triple calendar chronograph with a moon phase indicator that also has a kind of an integrated bracelet look. This is in many ways the forgotten integrated bracelet watch that you can see in various guises from Zenith and Movado. Here you are looking at Zenith El Primero Luna Lux. Solid case back with the Zenith Star logo. And an interesting bracelet that matches the material of the case. 18 karat gold with an integrated bracelet structure. And the bracelet is from Gué Frères. And of course, Gué Frères is the company that has basically conceived and produced any recognizable piece of similar kind in horological history. Anything from the Rolex Jubilee and Oyster bracelets to the original integrated bracelets of the Royal Oak and the Nautilus was conceived and made by Gué Frères. And of course, they made all sorts of other bracelets for many legendary chronographs by Hoya and Universal Genève and so many others. And here too, for this integrated bracelet version of a tonneau-cased El Primero triple calendar chronograph with a moon phase indicator. They had produced a bracelet as well. Hi, Ryan Offrey. How are you doing, man? Nice to see you. This is lot number 47 for the Christie's Dubai online auction. And the piece is currently being bid at 10,000 US dollars. And it has an estimated value in the range between 10,000 to 20,000 in US dollars. This auction, by the way, is set to close in about 2 days. On the 27th, 2 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. That's 12 hours ahead of me, 9 hours ahead of the East Coast. Let's put it like that very quickly. For example, it's 5:27 a.m. there right now. I'm going to look at these two gem sets, Lange 1s, at lot 5 and 6. They have not been bid on just yet, so they constitute interesting enough propositions, but the starting bid is quite high, already at 6 figures. These are two Lange 1s with the original hand-wound movement from the 90s that had borrowed its gear train from Jaeger-LeCoultre. If you know a little bit about the story of Lange's launch, you know that it was in so many ways a personal pet project by Günther Blümlein, who of course brought Walter Lange on to revive this brand after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And Günther Blümlein at that point was heading the horological arm of Mannesmann, which was called Les Manufactures Horlogères, LMH, let's say very quickly, that had already included IWC of Schaffhausen and Jaeger-LeCoultre of Le Sentier in its possession. So when they decided to revive Eilang und Söhne as a Glashütte-based German watchmaking brand, they actually depended quite heavily on the know-how, on the savoir-faire that was already ingrained in the group through IWC and JLC, insofar as, for example, the initial strain of movements, except the tourbillon, which was made by Renault and Papy, had their gear trains borrowed from JLC movements. Even that oversized date, big date indicator was something that was bequeathed by JLC to Lange. And of course, the initial cadre of watchmakers that started at Lange at the Glashütte manufacturer finished their training actually in the Schaffhausen facilities of IWC. So there's a lot that has been shared, especially when you look back at the 90s between these three brands. And those initial movements, I'm sure there's a movement shot here, you can recognize by these islands on that 3/4 plate cut from German silver. Those are the accommodations that they have made to the original gear train which was taken from JLC movements. Of course, that's neither here nor there by the industry's own standard, especially when we look back at the 90s and even before, and well beyond as well. Gégé Coutrin was for long one of the most important movement makers in terms of the base movements that it provided to some of the best watchmakers, hence their name, so to speak, hence their moniker, the watchmaker's watchmaker, which gets carried on to even this day. This, of course, is a version of the Lange 1 in the classic 38 millimeter case size. That is quite unique. A. Lange & Söhne more broadly, and the Lange 1 specifically, is known for its quirky asymmetric dial design, but also its austere presentation. So it's not every day that you see one jam set on the bezel with some baguette cut diamonds, and 48 baguette cut diamonds at that. And I think I like this version a little better with all the contrast the piece has between the 18 karat pink gold case that is diamond set on the bezel and the black dial. The piece comes with a certificate of origin, which of course confirms that this piece left the factory with a diamond bezel, and it also has a presentation box. And a pin buckle to match. Here's the certificate of origin. And the piece has an estimated value set in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 US dollars. There haven't been any bids on it just yet. So maybe this will be passed on, who knows, or it will perhaps align with the right buyer who might want to snap it up at this particular juncture. I mean, it's actually, I think it's a very fascinating piece. Maybe not at this price point, but for the amount of money that sometimes people spent on day dates with intriguing dials, it's not completely out of my reckoning that someone might actually bid on this and try to snap it up right around the starting bid. And there's, of course, lot 5, which is the platinum counterpart of this from around the same time period. A much more colder, you might even say low-key aesthetic. Of course, you can't really say that with a piece that has 48 baguette cut diamonds set on its bezel. Not sure how well it works in this particular configuration, but I usually am very pleased with the kind of configuration people sometimes call stealth, platinum with a silvered dial, or rather a silver dial in this particular case, and the classic white background on the date wheels. But of course, I would be remiss to call a piece like this stealth when it has baguette cut diamonds on the bezel. But it is interesting from a collecting standpoint nonetheless. And you see how there's champagne like tint that developed as a patina on that 3/4 plate of the original movement some 2 decades or some almost 3 decades, I'm sure, after it left the manufacturer. And we have the same price point here and the same lack of initiative, at least at this point. The estimated value of the watch at lot 5 is set in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 in US dollars, and the starting bid would be 100,000 US dollars. Speaking of black dialed pink gold beauties, we have an Octa Calendrier. This is a piece that represents F. Bejon's take on the annual calendar with a retrograde date indicator that is on the periphery of the watch in the form of a crescent that faces towards the crown side. There are 2 apertures for the day of the week and the month that frame the signature, which is at the traditional 9 o'clock, and of course the offset dial with overlapping small seconds. This particular piece comes from the so-called boutique collection, or what is also called black label. These are the kinds of pieces that you can only request, that you can only demand to purchase from F. Bejon boutiques after you have bought a watch with them. I think nowadays it's after you have bought 2 watches from them, in fact. But don't take my word for it. And I think it's a really pleasant combination. Again, the kind of contrast it has between the warmth of the pink gold case and the deep black of the dial, which I believe is a lacquered dial, but I might be wrong. Let me confirm. Yeah, I believe it's a black lacquered dial. That's what I remember at any rate. I also kind of like the cohesion of the piece between the 18 karat case and the 18 karat movement with its main plate and bridges. So primarily rendered in 18 karat gold. And there is, of course, an offset oscillating weight that is executed in 22 karat pink gold and decorated as well, adorning both the logo, signature, and the motto of the brand. Lot 7, I think, still testifies to the lasting popularity of F. Bejon's watches and the continuing hype around them, because there is already a current bid, which amounts to the starting bid, $150,000. The pre-auction estimate for this watch put its value in the range between $150,000 to $250,000. At lot 3, you have what is probably one of the most significant neo-vintage references for collectors. This is Patek's perpetual calendar split seconds chronograph. The reference is 5004. It is, in so many ways, the split seconds counterpart to 3970, which, of course, is the perpetual calendar chronograph from the same era. But even though both pieces are encased in around 36 millimeters, of course, especially with that additional pusher that is integrated onto the crown for the split seconds function, there's a certain thickness and therefore heft associated to 5004 that distinguishes it, I think, both from the 3970, the perpetual calendar chronograph, and of course the 3940, which is much more sleek and thinner. Here you see 5004R, so the pink gold version. You have once again that contrast between the pink gold case and a black dial. The diameter of the case is right around 36 and a half millimeters. And the thickness is, I think, almost 15 millimeters. Let's see if there's a profile shot where you can get a good sense of that. Not really. Maybe this is as good as it gets. The dial, the black dial, is furnished with Arabic numerals applied in the same pink shade of gold. There's a pointer date that wraps itself around the opening for the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock encircles around the leap year indicator, and the continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock surrounds the day-night indicator, which comes in the form of a 24-hour hand. At 12 o'clock, right above the signature, there are two apertures for the day of the week and the month subsequently. And here's a look at that beautiful split-second movement, which in this case goes by the moniker CHR2770Q, meaning it's that classic hand-wound chronograph movement built on the Lemania base with a split-second module, which complicates and I think really makes much more multidimensional and fascinating the functioning of the chronograph. And of course, there is on the dial side a perpetual calendar module as well. This piece is from right around year 2002, comes with a certificate of origin that confirms the sale of the watch on January 2002. Of course, it has all the important components. of what makes it, quote unquote, a full set, box and papers, both the certificate of origin, but also the additional case back and a déployant clasp that is adorned with the Calatrava cross. Not sure if the setting pin is included. That should be part of the set as well. But there's the product literature, the presentation box, outer packaging, and a copy of a service invoice. Apparently, the black dial was fitted at that service, changing it with the standard silver one. These pieces were made, the reference 5004 was made in about 12 examples per year when it existed in Patek's catalog. So about one piece a month left their manufacture between the years 1994 and 2010. This one belongs to the first series, carrying a close movement number to where that series commenced. The starting bid stands at 280,000 US dollars. So far, there are no bids on this piece, and the estimated value was set in the range between 300,000 to 500,000 in US dollars. Hi, Brian Tone. What's up, man? Please hit the like button while you're at it. We're looking at the online auction by Christie's Watches, based out of Dubai. That has a few more days. Apparently, it ends at 2 p.m. Gulf Standard Time on November 28th. That's 12 hours ahead of me. So it will be 2 a.m. in the morning for me on November 28th, and 5 a.m. in the morning for those on the East Coast, for example. Lot 1 represents an example of the GMT Master, an evergreen sports watch, travel piece with the so-called Pepsi bezel, blue for the night hours and red for the day on the 24-hour insert, which is in aluminum, as it is on the classic reference 1675. This particular piece represents perhaps an added importance to Dubai, since it carries the signature of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed ibn Rashid Al Maktoum on the dial in red, right above the model name. And it's right around, it's from the time where he was serving as the United Arab Emirates' first defense minister, apparently. So before he took over as the ruler of Dubai. Nowadays, people are perhaps not as obsessed with Arabic dials. Perhaps these sorts of pieces with personal signatures have always been slightly less popular on the mainstream, but for the right person, I'm sure this particular watch carries a lot of importance. Must have been a piece given as a gift, as a token of appreciation to someone at the time. Otherwise, it's a decent example of the 1675, a GMT Master with the blue and red bezel mounted on a matching stainless steel oyster bracelet. The piece is currently being bid at 85,000 US dollars, and the pre-auction estimate set its value in the range between 80,000 to 120,000 in US dollars. That was lot one of Christie's Watches Online, the Dubai edit. Hi, Brent. How are you guys doing? Please hit the like button while you're at it. I'll take a look at the poll, which has had a few votes, which puts the Sotheby's auctions well ahead for now of others. I'll wait until it gains at least 10 votes, and if you're voting, please hit the like as well. For now, I will continue with the Dubai auction, but in a few minutes, I'm sure the number of likes will have risen and people have taken a little more initiative at the poll, and I might switch gears to whatever the poll tells me, whatever you guys tell me. At lot 16, we are looking at the 24-second tourbillon by Rebel Forcé. This was their fastest tourbillon at the time it was introduced, and for a long time yet, before they introduced the tourbillon cardan as the house's 8th fundamental invention last year. You guys probably know most tourbillon wristwatches have a 1-minute revolution. So when someone says 24-second tourbillon, that refers to the fact that the tourbillon cage completes its revolution in 24 seconds, meaning significantly faster, more than twice as fast, which means that it moves through more positions in less time to achieve chronometric precision. So yes, the visual is more interesting as well, potentially more captivating and hypnotizing, but for all the regulating functions of the tourbillon, it is also presumably much more efficient and, of course, more difficult to construct. This is a piece that was made only in 11 examples in platinum. I think Rebel Forcé introduced it almost a decade ago now, in 2015. And it won at the time the Aiguille d'Or, the grand prize of all grand prizes at the GPHG in that year. The platinum case version was introduced in 2017, again in 11 examples, with a beautiful gold dial in a shade of pink that we can appropriately call salmon. I think up until year 2020, Rebel Forcé was making about 100 watches per year, so extremely exclusive, especially from this time. Still, I think, quite exclusive, since I think they are making around maybe 250 or so, although they have been working on increasing that number with their recent expansion. Again, only made in 11 examples in platinum. The retail price was around 350,000 US dollars. The diameter of the watch is 43.5 millimeters. And the watch features a tritone salmon dial from an actual gold base. And the applied hour markers are actually in blue grand feu enamel. Right, so there are applied gold markers that are set in what they call chanlevé with grand feu blue enamel, which is a nice match with the blued hands of the watch. Here's a good look at the inclined tourbillon cage that is situated at 6 o'clock with a small seconds dial at around 4:30. And through the back of the case, you can get another angle, another perspective on the tourbillon cage. There's also a power reserve indicator that is embedded on one of the frosted bridges. This is a look at the double barrel mainspring of the watch. This was lot 16 for the Grebel Forcé 24-second tourbillon in platinum. It is currently being bid at 100,000 US dollars. The estimated value before the auction stood at 120,000 to 220,000 in US dollars. Here's the full set of its accessories, and it is matched with a platinum pin buckle. So let's take a look at the poll. There are already 10 votes. People are asking for Sotheby's, so I'm gonna switch to that. And I'm also gonna set a super chat goal while I'm at it. I'm gonna go until 7 at least. But if you want an extra hour of watch talk, feel free to contribute to the goal of 5 super chats of $5 or more. And it will be my pleasure to serve you for another hour. We might get back to this online auction. I think there are still a few pieces that I would like to discuss, but I do want to cater to exactly what you asked from me. So here is Sotheby's Fine Watches. This is the one that starts earlier with additional December auctions that includes the Tom Brady one as well. There we go. Here's the link. You guys know the rules. Feel free to browse the 358 lots on your own. And if there's anything you would like me to prioritize, feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I will be more than happy to accommodate you, more than happy to dive right in and talk about that watch in as much detail as I can muster. Let's start with something interesting. This is lot 313 for an oyster quartz day date in white gold. Not the most common example of a Rolex president, so to speak. I think these pieces are aesthetically quite interesting and pleasing, especially if you are following the hype around the integrated bracelet designs. You would be happy to see that the oyster quartz day date features a barrel-shaped case that is integrated with a matching bracelet, here in white gold, with a fluted bezel. And of course, operated with a quartz movement of Rolex's own. This is the reference 19019 and lot 313 for the Sotheby's Fine Watches auction. That's going to take place on November 27th, this Wednesday in New York. The estimate is set in the range between 12,000 to 18,000 in US dollars. At lot 315, there's a watch that starts at no reserve. This is an example of Moza Venture. With a smoked blue dial, Arctic blue fumé, in 18 karat white gold, 39 millimeters in diameter, with the full set of its accessories from 2021. Very minimalistic piece. Pure, understated design that focuses, or that in fact helps you focus on the quality and beauty of the watch and the intrigue on its dial rather than anything else. A limited edition of 100 pieces in white gold with a hand-wound movement, with that mustachio-shaped bridge that you have perhaps come accustomed to see on Moza watches, the mustache-shaped balance bridge. And right next to it, you'll see there's a power reserve embedded on the bridge with Moses' distinct double stripe decoration on the bridges. It is one of those manufacturers that takes a lot of pride in making just about everything in their integrated manufacture, and that includes even the balance springs. This is lot 315 for a limited edition white gold Moza Venture Concepts from around year 2021, with an estimated value between 8 to 16,000 US dollars. Another Moza watch greets us at lot 316. This is the double hairspring piece, housed in a 40 millimeter white gold Endeavor case. The dial is, again, a smoked blue dial, this time what they call Blue Lagoon Fumé. And the watch is powered by a self-winding caliber. Apparently, there is a document accompanying the watch which confirms that it has, in fact, a double hairspring, which apparently is the only one of this reference to have a double hairspring. Very cool. Not that many people care about such minute details, but if you do, there we go. This piece, the Endeavor Center Seconds with the Blue Lagoon Fumé dial and the double hairspring, has a pre-auction estimated value set between 8,000 to 16,000 US dollars. At lot 318, we have a special edition of Chapek's integrated bracelet stainless steel sports watch. This was made in collaboration with the online magazine Fratello Watches. And it has a Viridian green dial with their unique decoration and an orange-tipped sweep center seconds hand, which, of course, is an oblique reference to the Dutch origins of that quote-unquote journalistic outlet. 1 out of 50 pieces. Of course, the case diameter is right around 40.5 millimeters in diameter. A little big for my wrist, for my small wrists, but there is a version of the Antarctic S, namely, that comes in a 38 millimeter case diameter, I think, and that fits much better if you actually happen to have a smaller wrist as well. The C-shaped center links of the integrated bracelet are an interesting nod to the initial of the brand's name, Chapek. I always thought that was cute in a good way. Again, a piece that arrives as a full set. And of course, the highlight, perhaps, of all Chapek Antarctic pieces is their unique micro-rotor movement with its partially skeletonized finger bridges that hold together its gear train, as well as its balance wheel, of course. It's a micro-rotor movement with a platinum rotor weight. There are some earlier versions of it that actually have a pink gold weight, but for the most part, you will see them with a platinum one. This is the Chapek Antarctique from a 50-piece limited edition made in collaboration with Fratello Watches in 2021. Integrated bracelets in stainless steel. It's a no reserve lot, so it will start at $1 with an estimated value that is set in the range between $10,000 to $20,000 in US dollars. We are continuing to look at the Sotheby's Fine Watches auction that is going to take place in 2 days on Wednesday in New York. Feel free to browse some of the lots on your own at your own pace. And if you would like me to take a closer look at anything, feel free to send in the lot number. Here's an oddball with a two-tone blue dial, kind of TV screen shape for a white gold cushion-shaped Patek Philippe piece. A two-tone blue dial where the center has a color that's reminiscent of the semi-precious stone lapis lazuli, but without, of course, that gold flux, so to speak. That is framed with a gold ring, and there is a deeper kind of petrol blue that surrounds that's on the periphery of the dial with some visible damage to it. Something to keep in mind. The dimensions of the watch are about 33 millimeters by 33. It is powered by a microrotor movement from the lineage of the caliber 240. So quite thin, quite sleek, as you can see from this profile. Of course, it's a solid case back. From around 1980. It's a cushion-shaped Patek Philippe dress watch with a two-tone blue dial in white gold, 33 by 33, with an estimated value set between 5,000 to 8,000 in US dollars. At 334, we're looking at an example of the Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph. Again, one of those neo-vintage classics, embodying what I think are the perfect dimensions for such a stately dress watch. 36 millimeters in yellow gold. Belonging to the third series and arriving with its box and papers, which include, as you can see, the additional case back, the watch, of course, belongs to that lineage of Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronographs that are built on the legendary chronograph base of the Lemania 2310 or CH27. With the hallmark of Geneva on the balance bridge. That's distinctly Y-shaped Patek chronograph bridge and the polished cap on the column wheel. And here's the set that includes also the setting pin and the hang tags, as well as a non-stamped certificate of origin that belongs to the watch, not to mention all the product literature, as well as the presentation case and its outer packaging. This was lot 334 for an example of a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar 3970E in 18 karat yellow gold belonging to the third series. And the piece has an estimated value that is set in the range between 80,000 to 120,000 in US dollars. .335 is a classic Patek Philippe chronograph reference with the waterproof case. The so-called Tasti Tondi, reference 1463. Here in an 18-karat yellow gold case with a screw-down case back, a yellow gold case made in 34.5, around 35 millimeters in diameter, made by François Borgel, a pioneer in making such waterproof cases for many other makers, including Movado, for example. This piece is from around year 1950. So an example of that mid-century aesthetic with those round pushers that spurred Italian collectors to give it the moniker Tasti Tondi, literally round pushers. They do have a distinct conical top that is guilloche decorated. Very nice aesthetic, of course, an added grip as well. Beautiful dial that has a slight blemish that I can see at 7 o'clock, but otherwise in a decent condition. Arabic numerals at 12 and 6, with stick markers for the hours, yellow gold leaf style hands, and blued hands for the chronograph functions, which include the 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. What I really like about these classic vintage chronographs with two registers is when those registers are so nicely proportioned and placed in perfect relation to the crown as they are here. There's also a tachymeter register inscribed on the periphery of that silver dial. The movement is a classic 13-line Valjoux, and the yellow gold case has developed very attractive and warm patina over the years as well, and is in quite a decent condition, as you can see from the crisply legible hallmark, for example, on this lug, on this right lug, on the 6 o'clock side. Lot 335 is an example of the hand-wound Patek Philippe chronograph, kind of the sporty waterproof alternative at the time to their reference 130, which was their first serially produced chronograph. This is the reference 1463 in yellow gold, the Tasti Tondi, with an estimated value in the range between 150,000 to 300,000 in US dollars. I have another 35 minutes or so. So If you have any special requests, anything that you would like to expedite, please feel free. We're looking at lot 336 at a classic 300 dress watch by Urban Jürgensen. This is a brand that Kari Voutilainen recently acquired with an investors group, and he is leading its revival. Of course, he himself was quite integral to how this brand was revived in modern time as well. And you can see in the aesthetics of this case, of course, many of the elements that he made his own in the independent brand that carries his name. The classic round-shaped case with teardrop lugs, the observatory-style hands that are part white gold, part tempered blue stainless steel with white gold hoops, you can say very quickly. The guilloche decorated dials that exhibit different patterns here in the center of the dial, as well as the subdial for small seconds. And there are also applied Breguet numerals that are rhodium plated and that complements the 40 millimeter stainless steel case so beautifully. And this is a salmon dial, by the way, which works ever so well with a stainless steel case. And here's a look at that hand wound movement, which is nicely decorated. Of course, not at the level that one comes to expect from the most boutique of independent makers today, but certainly at the level, if not better, of many serially produced so-called high horology brands. This piece basically arrives in its factory packaging and as a full set with a certificate of authenticity dated May 2021. It is number 4 of a 50-piece limited edition, and it's valued in a range between $12,000 to $24,000 US dollars. As a variation of the theme, since we are talking about salmon dials, this was a US limited edition for the Bulgari Octofinissimo. I think it has now been integrated into the catalog. Stainless steel version of their integrated sports chic piece with a salmon sunburst style, Arabic numerals at 12 and 6, and a subdial for seconds at around 8. Octofinissimo is a design that is inspired by Jaraganta, but is actually penned by Fabrizio Bonamassa Stigliani. But it does, of course, get lots of inspiration from the octagonal designs from Janta and puts into play his favorite tension between round and angular geometrical shapes. Very multi-layered piece. ultra thin with an onyx cap on the crown. And a micro rotor movement that has a platinum oscillating weight on the back. This piece obviously arrives with the full set of its accessories. And is from April of last year at lot 337 with an estimated value that's set between 10,000 to 20,000 in US dollars. There are a couple of brass movement Jean pieces that kind of headline this auction, so it would not be right to not highlight them. This is lot 342 for a platinum Octa Réserve de Marche, which of course comes in a 38 millimeter case. The platinum case is matched with a white gold dial that has acquired a certain warmth. And it is powered by the Jean caliber 1300s, which when it was introduced and even still is groundbreaking self-winding movements with its 5-day power reserve and its ability to be modified because of its thinness. Of course, the Octa Réserve de Marche is kind of their simple self-winding dress watch, of course, with the classic off-center dial that is screwed on top of a gold backdrop, big data indicator at around 11 o'clock in relation to that dial, and a power reserve indicator at around 8 o'clock. And here's a look onto that classic caliber 1300s, here rendered in brass, rhodium plated brass, and mounted with a 22 karat decorated pink gold oscillating weight that is mounted off center. Box and papers with its original warranty certificate. This is an FB Jaune Octa Réserve de Marche in platinum from 2002, therefore with the brass movements. The piece has an estimated value between 80,000 to 120,000 in US dollars. At lot 343, we have a chronometre résonance from around the same time, maybe around year 2003. This is one of the flagship pieces by Jean, perhaps along with the Tourbillon Souverain. It was a demonstration, as it were, of Breguet's classic resonance pieces, which were, of course, pocket watches. François-Paul Jean succeeded in miniaturizing this wristwatch, which realized this principle of resonance by placing basically two independent gear trains in close proximity. There should be about 2,000 brass movement pieces across all models from year 1999, which is when Jean started, till 2004, where the brass movement pieces basically were ended in their production. And of course, even though chronometre résonance was almost an experimental piece in trying to implement this principle of resonance in a wristwatch, since it has two independent movements, two independent displays that essentially regulate each other in terms of how they operate and compensate for each other's errors, but display different times. It has been used through generations as a kind of dual time piece too. So you can, in fact, set it to two different times. As you can see, the piece has two distinct crowns, one located at the traditional 12 o'clock and the other at 4 o'clock. This platinum piece, 38 millimeters in diameter, has a yellow gold dial that has a little bit of tarnish right around the power reserve indicator. Lot 343 too comes with as a full set, so to speak, with the full set of its accessories, boxes and papers. Bought from the famous Orologeria Pisa from Milano. And it has the rhodium-plated brass version of the movements. You can see how close these two balance wheels are. Lot 343, a platinum 38 millimeter FP Jean chronometre résonance from around 2003, thus with a brass movement. The piece has an estimated value between 200 to 300,000 US dollars. I have about 24 minutes. So if you wish to contribute in any way, ask a watch-related question, or if you have any other kinds of requests, here's your chance. If nothing else, please feel free to hit the like button. Always share the link and information about the channel with other collectors and watch enthusiasts. And of course, you should always feel free to follow me on Instagram as well. And here's the link for that. If you haven't already subscribed, if you have just chanced on this live stream for one reason or another, please subscribe. I'm always in need of expanding this community. We have some very interesting pieces from AP. So maybe I will close with 3 or 4 of those. Here's one of my absolute favorites. At lot 345, we have the ultra-thin perpetual calendar. Here the reference 25657BA, 36 millimeters in diameter for the yellow gold case with a stepped bezel and rather stubby lugs. This is a design conceived by Jacqueline Dimier, who was one of the protégés of Gérald Jantat. She headed the design department at AP for a long time. Very understated, very beautiful, perfect ultra-thin dress watch with complications. The case has developed some warm patina on it, which is absolutely normal with yellow gold pieces from around this period. It does come with its presentation box and papers. That set includes the hang tag, the original hang tag, as well as the setting pin. Very beautiful set. This piece comes from 1983. So 41 years ago, almost on the dot, from December 1983, for this ultra-thin and extremely elegant perpetual calendar from AP, housed in a classic 36 millimeter yellow gold dress watch case. Abbreviated stick markers for the hours, kind of a 4 sub-dial look, extremely balanced, with the aperture for the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock, right above the signature of the brand. At 12 o'clock, you have the indicator for months, the pointer date at 3 o'clock, and day of the week at 9. All are subtly sunken subdials and have indicators with heat blued hands, and classic pencil-shaped thin hands for the hour and minutes as well. This is a self-winding piece built on the base of that ultra-thin automatic JLC 920 movement, which remains to this day, and this is quite something for a movement designed in 1960s. It remains to this day the thinnest automatic movement with a full-sized rotor. Lot 345 has a pre-auction estimate that sets its value between 12,000 to 24,000 US dollars. At lot 344, we have the UTM chronograph. The UTM chronograph was AP's first self-winding chronograph, preceding the so-called Royal Oak Offshore Beast by some years. This piece, even though it sports the sporty complication of an automatic chronograph, is housed in a much more classically constructed and conceived case, even if it is slightly oversized for that appearance at 40 millimeters in diameter. Here the piece has a stainless steel case with a silver dial, but this model was produced in a variety of metals, including platinum, yellow gold, pink gold. It actually had a chronograph movement that used a JLC 889 base with a Dubois Desprats chrono work under the dial. The date has an interesting application of a magnifier that is inside the crystal. I love the case design with what is almost an excessive version of branding, with Audemars Piguet engraved on the bezel at around 12 o'clock, the initial logo right next to the date window at 3 o'clock, and the full signature right under that, Audemars Piguet automatic as well. Kind of a unique 6-9-12 layout for the chronograph registers, 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock, 30-minute totalizer at 9 o'clock, and a continuous running seconds subdial at 12. The tachymeter is inscribed on the periphery of the dial, and all the hands, including the hands for the hour and minutes, are heat blued, which creates a nice contrast against the backdrop of a silver dial and makes for a very legible piece. Hi, Basil. How are you doing, man? Nice to see you. I think I have maybe 10-15 minutes more, unless someone comes up with a special request or maybe jumps on the panel and talks watches with me. I wanted to also take a look at the star wheel at lot 347. This is interesting because since I made a comeback to live streams, it seems like I talk about one of these star wheels in every single live stream. An interesting coincidence. But I really love the complication, and I think it fits so much better this classic 36 millimeter case, and makes for such a legible watch also in the way they conceived the dial on this one, compared to what they have in the catalog today as a Code 1159. The Star Wheel wristwatch was, of course, AP's long-standing implementation of the wandering hours complication. And in this particular version, it has 3 transparent hour discs that expose the turning mechanism under them, which is shaped like a star wheel, hence the name. And my favorite versions have this upward-facing crescent, which is decorated, guilloche decorated in the lower part of the dial, and a white fan-like scale for the minutes in the upper part of the dial. Again, that white backdrop serves really well for the legibility of the watch. And as you can see, both the guilloche part of the dial and the case itself has acquired very rich patina in 30-some years for which this watch existed. Otherwise, the case is quite well preserved. As you can see, with crisp, legible hallmarks. And it has an exhibition case back, which gives you a peek onto the self-winding movement. Again, nice, Basil. Hope you enjoyed the trip. Of course, it has a movement that still builds on that ultra-thin base. It's a caliber AP 21-24, decently decorated again. And here it has a presentation case, certificate of origin and warranty papers, as well as the outer box for this packaging. Very beautiful for lot 347. AP Star Wheel, reference 25720 in a 36 millimeter yellow gold case with a stepped bezel and a classic guilloche decorated semi-skeletonized dial that gives you a good look on the Star Wheel complication, on the wandering hours complication itself. The estimated value of the piece is set between 18 to 24,000 US dollars. Let's discuss perhaps 2 more watches. Feel free to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. If you have chanced upon this live stream for one reason or another and you have not yet subscribed to this channel, you'll find here regularly scheduled live streams and other contents that revolves around the passion for and knowledge of wristwatches, mainly. A lot of auction coverage, critical views and insights into the industry, opinions on the new releases, hyped pieces, lots of expert discussion on vintage and neo vintage watches as well. And some regular guests too, which includes fellow collectors as well as some industry insiders. We were looking today at some of the upcoming auctions, including the Christie's online auction, which is based in Dubai and which is apparently going to conclude at 2 p.m. Gulf Standard Time on the 28th, which is 2 a.m. in the morning here and 5 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast. And the Sotheby's Fine Watches auction, which is also an online accompaniment to Sotheby's auction in New York, starts in 2 days on Wednesday and ends on December 13th. Lot 369 is a Lange we are not accustomed to see much in modern time. Alan Gonzun's head of product development, Tony De Haas, once said that it's hard for any other brand to make rectangular watches and succeed when you're competing against Cartier and Jaeger-LeCoultre. And he has a point, but of course it doesn't help that Alan Gonzone actually is part of the same corporate structure as those two brands, as Cartier and Jaeger-LeCoultre, under the Richemont Group. So they're not really allowed to make any rectangular or square-like watches anymore, which is a shame because I have always been a big fan of the Cabaret and the Arcade as well, which was one of the original four designs that was released at the launch, at the modern launch of the brand in the year 1994. This is an Arcade that also has a date display, an oversized big date display at 12 o'clock, which has since become part and parcel of the brand's visual signature, and a moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock, which is surrounded also by a small seconds dial. The dimensions of the pink gold case are 25 by 43 millimeters. And of course, as it behooves a quality watchmaker like Lange, look at the beauty of this case. So elegant, yet so multidimensional at the same time. The pushers are there, of course, for the correction of the date and the moon phase. Sit flush at the case flank on the right, surrounding the crown. And as it behooves a watchmaker like Lange, the watch has a form-fitting movement, a caliber that was conceived, designed, and implemented for this watch, right? Unlike some other brand which releases a square-shaped watch called Cobitus and just slots in a round movement. I guess they must have produced too many movements when they were making stainless steel Nautiluses, and now they have to go somewhere. So put a round peg through a square watch, which happens to be quite big as well. Lange doesn't do that thankfully. So you have a beautifully form-fitting movement that has otherwise all the elements that you would expect, both in terms of architecture and finishing from a Lange piece, a 3/4 plate rendered in German silver, that particular alloy of nickel, copper, and zinc, freehand engraved balanced cock, swan neck regulator, those heat blued screws, and the jewels that are set countersunk in gold chaton. Lot 369 arrives with the full set of its accessories, box and papers, including the setting pin. And this classic Lange piece, rectangular, the Cabaret moon phase, has an estimated value between 10,000 to 20,000 in US dollars. All right, one more watch. Let's choose it carefully. Let's see. A watch that I didn't discuss perhaps more recently on this channel. This is a great one. This is a classic Hoya Autavia, which was one of their signature automatic chronographs from a bygone era. The name combines the two fields in which chronographs figured as tool watches: automotive, the field of racing, motorsports, cars, etc., and aviation, of course, planes, military aviation, and beyond. A similar piece to this was worn by a young Luca Cordero de Montezemolo when he was still Enzo Ferrari's assistant and the manager of Scuderia Ferrari. So it has that sort of connection to a motorsports legacy, but also it has a connection through the Viceroy cigarette brand as well. And they are called the Viceroy because in the 70s, the reference 1163 was advertised alongside these cigarettes. I guess the chronographs were a hard sell at the time. So you had to use cigarettes to push them. How the times have changed. I mean, a Hoya chronograph is still a hard sell, admittedly. Doesn't matter whether the Formula One champion wears it. Doesn't matter that LVMH is going to sponsor the entire event. It's still pretty difficult to move what is now a Tag Heuer chronograph. But that being said, the classical era where these pieces had perhaps a more organic connection to the world of motorsports, Heuer chronographs still have quite a bit of appeal. And the reference 1163 V Altavia Viceroy is one of those pieces. Lot 387 actually arrives with its papers that certifies that it was in fact bought through Viceroy Cigarettes, Louisville, Kentucky. By apparently a gentleman based in Jacksonville, Florida in 1972. Lot 387 will start with no reserve, but has an estimated value between 5,000 to 8,000 US dollars. Well, there you have it. This is it for tonight. We talked about the Sotheby's Fine Watches auction, as well as the Dubai-based Christie's online auction, both online auctions, in fact. We had some chance to explore some of my picks. Next time around, maybe when I'm live streaming tomorrow or later in the week, possibly when we're exploring some of the upcoming auctions online, but also coming up in New York that includes some of Tom Brady's own pieces as well. Maybe you will come up with some of your own requests, and I'd be more than happy to tend to them. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And if you have just by chance come across this live stream and you're interested in watches, please subscribe. I have watch-related content basically every day for you. Otherwise, I hope you are well. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out and leave a comment when the live stream ends. And please share the link with fellow watch collectors and enthusiasts. Take care.